If you were a kid in the 80s or 90s, you might have had an encounter with the film Return to Oz. And if you haven't seen the movie but you've heard about it, then you've probably only heard that this movie is disturbing. Well, as disturbing as a kid's movie could be. But what you don't know is how criminally underrated this movie is. Let's talk about that. Hey guys, welcome back to Life in Technicolor, and today is a different type of video. In this video, I'll be talking about a certain movie/topic, and you know what that means. I get into character. There we go. Yeah, like you've never seen a ducking scarecrow before. Get over yourself, my videos are fun, okay? We have fun here. Return to Oz is a 1985 sequel to the movie The Wizard of Oz. And the movie's also been noted as probably the best representation of L. Frank Baum's books. And this is actually what led to the movie's downfall. Let's take it this way. The musical movie from the 1930s wasn't actually a very good representation of the books. Don't get me wrong, I love the movie from the 30s as much as the next guy, but the books are actually a whole lot darker than the actual movie. And well, critics didn't take this too lightly. In fact, they did not enjoy seeing a dark version of the bright and colorful world they knew years prior. And if you go online and you search disturbing kids movies or scariest moments from my childhood, this movie will pop up on 95% of those lists. But if this movie is a sequel to The Wizard of Oz, how dark could it be? Let me tell you guys, this movie is disturbing.
It was very violent. It was a total attack against kids, the whole movie. Everything that kids love was being used against them.
That's kind of dramatic. The movie starts off in Kansas just like the original, except Dorothy's being submitted to electric shock therapy to erase all of her memories of Oz. But I mean, what would you think if your kid kept going on and on about a trip she took to a magical world with singing and dancing scarecrows, talking lions, wicked witches, and singing little people? After being submitted to a mental institution straight out of American Horror Story, Dorothy is rescued by a mysterious little girl. Together they escape the mental hospital after being chased by a nurse. The two girls fall into a river and Dorothy is washed away into the world of Oz. I mean, the first time she got sucked up a twister, now she's being sucked down a river. I'm starting to think that Earth just doesn't like Dorothy. Yeah, maybe Dorothy should just stay in Oz. Upon arriving in Oz, Dorothy finds her chicken Bellina, that somehow after arriving to Oz has magically been given the ability to talk. And this is where this dark movie gets even darker. Dorothy finds that the yellow brick road has been destroyed. She also finds that all the color in the Emerald City has been drained. And also that all of the people of Oz have either been beheaded or turned to stone. And in many cases, they've been both beheaded and turned to stone. That's a gnarly way to go. But luckily, she does find two of her friends, the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion. Unfortunately though, the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion have both been turned to stone. Then we meet the living embodiment of nightmare fuel, the Wheelers.
Come here, chicken!
I mean, listen to that laugh. That laugh alone is disturbing. So let's be honest, I could definitely take one of these guys in a fight. I mean, the thought of having wheels for hands, that does make a creepy concept, but like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna run me over? I mean, I know they can't throw a punch with one of those wheels for hands.
You have to come out sooner or later, and when you do, we'll tear you into little pieces and throw you in the deadly desert.
Yeah, I highly doubt that. How are you gonna tear her apart with no hands? Checkmate. Okay, I'm gonna stop roasting these guys, their lives are hard enough. The Wheelers chase Dorothy into a room where she meets her new friend, TikTok. Yeah, it's not the TikTok that you're thinking of. This is the TikTok Man of Oz. TikTok was a member of the one-man royal army. This is actually very ironic considering that the only way to get TikTok to work is you have to wind up his back. And whenever his back becomes unwind, he can't move until somebody winds him back up. But this is what I mean whenever I say this movie was far ahead of its time. This was not a CG effect, this is an actual costume, and it's very impressive how they made it work. Michael Sundin was the name of the gymnast that actually brought him to life. See, he was inside the costume nearly folded in half, but was upside down. He then used his arms to maneuver the legs around. He did all of this upside down, and you know you can't see very well inside of a dark costume. This gymnast was a legend, to say the least. TikTok single-handedly clears the area of the Wheelers, chasing them off into the Desert of Despair. A desert that actually turns its victims into sand as soon as they touch the sand. We then see 5 Wheelers turn into sand. except for one which TikTok holds hostage. After being questioned by Dorothy, the Wheeler explains that the Gnome King stole all the emeralds from the Emerald City. He also explains that he was the one to turn everybody to stone, and that the only person that knows where the Scarecrow might be is Princess Mombi. You know, because the Scarecrow was left in charge of the Emerald City. So Dorothy, Bellina, and TikTok decide they have to go visit Princess Mombi. And guys, brace yourselves, because you're not ready for this next scene. Upon entering Princess Mombi's castle, it is shown that Princess Mombi has her own collection of severed heads, and they're all alive. Mombi is then shown removing her own head and replacing it with another. She has 30 living women's heads in her collection, and as soon as she sees Dorothy's pretty face, she decides that Dorothy is the next to be added to her collection. TikTok attempts to save Dorothy, but unfortunately he becomes unwound, therefore useless, and Dorothy is locked up inside of Mombi's castle. But there is a silver lining behind this problem. Dorothy is then introduced to one of the coolest characters in all of Oz, Jack Pumpkinhead. Here's a little fun fact for you. Tim Burton actually based the character Jack Skellington off of Jack Pumpkinhead, and you can definitely see the resemblance. You can't help but feel bad for Jack Pumpkinhead. I mean, he's quite literally a lost child. He's technically a scarecrow that was recently brought to life by Mombi's powder of life. He's confused and afraid, so he refers to Dorothy as his mom, basically because he just doesn't have a mom. The powder of life that brought Jack to life actually gives Dorothy an idea of how to escape the castle. Dorothy, Bellina, Jack, and TikTok then build a creature out of furniture and a severed animal head that they find in the castle. They cover the creature in Mombi's powder of life and bring the character to life. This character's name is Gump, who despite his situation is actually quite positive. I mean, one second he's hanging out in the woods, he's cleaning his boat that he named Jenny, and he's hanging out with Lieutenant Dan. And then he hears a loud bang, and the next thing he knows, he's this new monstrosity made out of furniture. I hope people thought that joke was funny. I worked really hard on it. Oh, and I almost forgot. This is Princess Mombi's security system.
Dorothy girl.
Yeah, I'd rather just use a security camera, or maybe like some sort of laser system, but I guess that gets the job done too. They escape to the Gnome King, who explains why he destroyed the Emerald City. And quite basically, the Gnome King really isn't a bad guy. You see, the emeralds were actually stolen from the Gnome King, and whenever Dorothy escaped Oz the first time, the ruby slippers somehow wound up in his lap. So, he used his powers to take back what was rightfully his. He also felt attacked by the fact that they stole all of his emeralds, so he decided to just take out the army while he was at it, turning everybody into stone. Now, Dorothy does not like this, but he does make a deal with them. You see, he turned the Scarecrow into an ornament of sorts. Or if Dorothy can figure out which ornament is the Scarecrow within 3 tries, they get him back. However, if they can't figure out which ornament is him, then they will all join him as ornaments. One by one, her friends go into the room and they each fail. Every time one of her friends fails, the Gnome King actually becomes more human, which is oddly disturbing. Dorothy is the last to go in and the first to discover who the Scarecrow truly is. She turns the Scarecrow back to normal as well as her friends, and the Gnome King does not like this. This angers him so much that he picks up Jack in an attempt to eat him. And whenever he nearly does, Bellina lays an egg down his throat. This actually poisons the Gnome King, giving us a very disturbing death scene.
Poison to gnomes.
Dorothy takes her slippers back and wishes everything back to normal. And the movie ends with a parade in the Emerald City where everyone is turned back to normal. And the detail in this scene alone deserve an Oscar. I mean, there's Easter eggs of characters from all the books, and I don't mean like they're just in the background. I mean, there's some very impressive puppet work. You could see the Shaggy Man, you could see some Munchkins, you could see the Patchwork Girl, and I almost forgot, Ozma is actually the new Queen of Oz. It's revealed that Mombi actually trapped her in the mirror after the original Oz left, and Dorothy is returned to Kansas. I mean, the happy ending seems to downplay the terror, but people still look back on all the scary moments of this movie and are just confused. I'm honestly shocked that Disney of all places would make a movie like this. However, this movie was way ahead of its time, guys. This movie was so impressive that honestly it's so heartbreaking that so many people don't know about this movie. And the movie was almost darker. In fact, Tim Curry was actually in talks to play the Gnome King, as well as Dick Van Dyke as the Scarecrow and Don Knotts as the voice of Bellina. But one star that did make it into the movie was Deep Roy, who actually played the Tin Man. There's also a much higher body count in this movie. In the original movie, there were only 2 deaths. There was the Wicked Witch of the East that was actually crushed by Dorothy's house, and also the Wicked Witch of the West that melted. In this movie, there is a body count of 8. There's 6 Wheelers that are turned into sand. There's the Gnome King that dies of a food allergy, and then Dr. Worley who died in a fire off screen. Yeah, this movie is dark. I'm not doing it justice though, how dark this movie is. You know, this movie is a great movie. It's on Disney Plus. If you haven't seen it, you really need to go check it out. It is so criminally underrated, guys. You really, I can't express enough how much you need to go watch this movie. So let me know in the comments what you think of this, guys. Let me know if you enjoyed Return to Oz. Let me know if it scared you. I'm not gonna lie, this movie scared me, and I didn't even watch it for a long time. That's right, I watched a YouTube video of a countdown of stuff that scared a guy when he was a kid, and this movie was on that list, and what I saw of the movie actually scared me, so I never watched it. Now, of course, I got over this as I got older. It's funny because the Wheelers were actually what scared me when I was younger, and it's ironic because now I find the Wheelers hilarious because, like, having wheels for your arms and legs just, like, really keep you from being able to, you know, hurt somebody. In fact, it sounds like more of an inconvenience than anything. I mean, what if you're trying to get down some stairs or something like that? You know, if you slip, you're just gonna fall. Like, they don't really scare me anymore. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. And as always, guys, be nice to each other. I could while away the hours, referring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. In my head I'd be scratching, my thoughts were busy hatching, if I only had a brain. I would be a great Scarecrow. I mean, honestly, I would love to play the Scarecrow.